The first time Daniel saw her, she was standing in his father's kitchen at 6 in the morning, quietly stirring a pot of soup as if she belonged there. He should have been angry. Instead, he couldn't move. Because his elderly father, who hadn't smiled in months, was sitting at the kitchen table, laughing, not politely, not weakly, actually laughing, and Daniel had forgotten what that sound felt like. For years, the CEO of Blackwood Industries had built his life around silence. Silence in boardrooms, silence in elevators, silence at dinner tables. Silence after his mother's death, love, to Daniel, was something that belonged to other people. Until a woman named Clara walked into his father's house carrying nothing but a worn handbag, a small notebook, and a determination to make an old man feel human again. Before we continue, if you believe that kindness can change someone's life, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to Kindness of Power for more emotional stories like this. And tell us in the comments, which city and country are you watching from? Now let's begin. Daniel Blackwood was 38 years old and one of the youngest CEOs in his city. His face appeared on business magazines. His company owned hotels, restaurants, technology firms, and real estate across the country. People called him brilliant. People called him ruthless. Nobody called him warm. That was because warmth had become dangerous to Daniel. His mother had died when he was 23. After that, his father, Arthur, had slowly withdrawn from the world. Arthur had once been a powerful businessman himself, but age and illness had taken almost everything from him. He stopped attending family gatherings, stopped meeting old friends, stopped eating properly. Most painfully, he stopped speaking. Doctors said his health was deteriorating because he was lonely. Daniel responded the only way he knew how. He hired people, nurses, housekeepers, chefs, caregivers, but every person eventually left. Some complained that Arthur was difficult. Others said he was too demanding. One even admitted that she couldn't stand being around someone who barely spoke. Then Clara arrived. She wasn't a professional chef. She wasn't from a wealthy family. She wasn't impressed by Daniel's money. She was simply a 29-year-old woman who had spent years cooking in a small neighborhood restaurant. After losing her own father when the agency introduced her as a temporary cook and companion for Arthur, Daniel nearly rejected her. "You're not qualified," he told her during their first meeting. Clara looked at him calmly. "Maybe not for your standards." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "And what standards are those?" "The kind that measure a person by their resume instead of their heart." Nobody spoke to Daniel that way, nobody. He should have fired her immediately. Instead, he said, "You have 1 week." Clara smiled. "That's enough." The next morning, she arrived before sunrise. She didn't begin by cooking expensive meals. She opened Arthur's old recipe book. It was covered in dust. Inside were handwritten notes from Daniel's mother. Clara spent nearly an hour reading them. Then she prepared a simple vegetable soup. When Arthur entered the kitchen, he looked at the bowl and frowned. "I don't eat breakfast." Clara placed the spoon beside him. "I know." Arthur stared at her. "Then why did you make it?" "Because someone should still ask you to eat." The old man's expression changed. Just slightly, he sat down and took 1 spoonful, then another. Clara didn't celebrate. She simply returned to the stove. That afternoon, Daniel received a call from the nurse. "Sir, your father ate almost the entire lunch." Daniel froze. "What?" And he asked Clara to stay for dinner. Daniel didn't understand. His father hadn't requested anyone's company in months. That evening, Daniel returned home earlier than usual. He expected to find Clara serving dinner. Instead, he found something completely different. Arthur was telling a story from Daniel's childhood, and Clara was laughing. Daniel stood silently in the doorway. His father looked happier than he had been in years. Then Arthur noticed him. "Daniel," he said. Daniel's heart stopped. It was the first time his father had spoken his name in nearly 3 Months. Come sit down. Daniel slowly walked toward the table. Clara looked at him for the first time. Their eyes met without anger or suspicion. Something unfamiliar passed between them. Something neither of them could explain. But Daniel didn't know that Clara had already discovered something hidden inside the old recipe book. A letter, written by his mother, and the words inside it were about Daniel. Words that would soon force him to confront the one thing he had spent 15 years running from love, and Clara was about to become the person standing directly in its the next morning. Daniel found Clara standing alone in the kitchen, holding the old recipe book against her chest. He noticed immediately that something was wrong. "What's in your hand?" he asked. Clara looked up. "Nothing." Daniel's eyes narrowed. He had spent his entire career recognizing when people were hiding something. "Clara," she slowly placed the book on the counter. "I found a letter." Daniel's face changed. "From whom?" "Your mother." For a moment, the kitchen became completely silent. Daniel reached for the letter with trembling fingers. His mother had been gone for 15 years. He had kept almost everything that belonged to her locked away, unable to look at it without feeling the same pain. He unfolded the paper. The handwriting was unmistakable. "My dear Daniel, if you're reading this, perhaps I've already left you. I know you will try to become strong. You will bury yourself in work. You will convince yourself that needing someone is weakness. Please don't." Daniel's eyes filled with tears. He continued reading. "Your father will need you, but don't forget that you will need someone too. One day someone may enter your life who doesn't care about your money, your company, or your name. When that person comes, don't push her away because you're afraid of losing her." Daniel couldn't read anymore. He lowered the letter. Clara quietly stepped closer. "She knew you." Daniel gave a bitter smile. "She knew me better than I knew myself." Then Arthur appeared in the doorway. He had heard everything your mother always worried about. "You," he said. Daniel turned toward him. "Why didn't you ever give me this?" Arthur looked down. "Because I was afraid." "Of what?" "Of losing you." Daniel's anger disappeared. Arthur continued, his voice trembling. "After your mother died, I thought if I could protect you from love, I could protect you from pain." Daniel stared at his father. "And did it work?" Arthur shook his head. "No, I only made you lonely." Those words broke something inside Daniel. For the first time in years, father and son embraced. Clara quietly wiped away a tear and stepped outside to give them privacy, but she didn't realize Daniel had followed her. "Why did you leave?" he asked. "Because that was a moment between you and your father." Daniel stood beside her. "You've done something nobody else could." "What? You made this house feel like a home." Clara smiled sadly. "That's because your father never needed another nurse." Daniel looked at her. "What did he need?" "Someone who would sit with him." Daniel's voice softened. "And what about me?" Clara hesitated. "You? Do I need someone to sit with me too?" She looked directly into his eyes. "Maybe." For the first time, Daniel smiled. Not the polite smile he used in business meetings, a real smile. But happiness didn't last long. That afternoon, Daniel received a call from his business partner, Marcus. There was a crisis at the company. A major investor wanted Daniel to travel overseas immediately to save a failing deal. "If you don't leave tonight," Marcus warned, "we could lose hundreds of millions." Daniel looked toward the kitchen. Clara was helping Arthur prepare dinner. For years, Daniel would have left without thinking. Business always came first. But now he hesitated. Marcus noticed. "Daniel, don't let a woman distract you from your responsibilities." Daniel's expression hardened. "She's not a distraction." He ended the call. That evening, he told Clara about the situation. "You should go," she said. "I don't want to." "Your company needs you." Daniel looked at her. "So does my father." Clara smiled. "Your father needs you to live your life, too." He realized then that Clara wasn't asking him to choose her. She was teaching him how to choose himself. Daniel left the next morning, but before he did, he stood beside Arthur's bed. "I'll be back soon." Arthur smiled. "Don't come back alone." Daniel laughed. You've become very bold. I've been waiting years to say that. Then Arthur looked toward the window. Don't lose her. Daniel followed his gaze. Clara was outside. Watering the flowers, his father whispered. Your mother would have liked her. Daniel smiled. Yes, I think she would have. The business trip lasted 3 days. But on the third night, Daniel received a call. Arthur had collapsed. Daniel's world stopped. He flew home immediately. When he reached the hospital, Clara was sitting beside Arthur's bed, holding his hand. Daniel rushed inside. How is he? Clara stood. The doctors say he's stable. Daniel closed his eyes in relief. Then he looked at Clara. She was exhausted. She hadn't slept. She had stayed beside his father the entire night. Daniel walked toward her. You stayed? Of course. Why? Clara looked at him. Because he's family. Daniel's eyes filled with tears. Then he whispered, And what am I? Clara's lips trembled. You are the man I'm afraid to love. Daniel stepped closer. Why are you afraid? Because people like you don't stay. Daniel took her hand. Then, let me prove you wrong. He didn't promise her a mansion. He didn't promise diamonds. He didn't promise a perfect life, he simply said. I want to stay. Months later, Arthur returned home stronger than anyone expected. The kitchen became his favorite place.